Hi, this is John Cullen. Welcome to another episode of Hypothetically Speaking. In this episode, I'm joined again by a friend of mine, a guy that I got to meet a couple years ago, that we refer to as the dog walking guy, in order to protect his identity. And we got to meet each other, I guess it was 3 years ago. Is that right?
No, it was 2 years and a few months.
2 years, 2.5 years ago, right? 2.5 years ago. That's right.
I did the interview in September of 2020.
That's right. That's right.
A week or two before October 1st.
That's right. So we did a documentary together where you recounted your experience from the Las Vegas shooting. And since then, you and I have stayed in touch on email. We talk pretty regularly, right? I mean, we send a message or two once a week or something, right? Every other week, give or take. So we've stayed in touch over the course of time. And you've had a number of thoughts and observations and had a very unique perspective. And so for the people who are watching this podcast or listening to this podcast and haven't had a chance to hear or see the documentary that you and I did 2.5 years ago of your experience, why don't you sort of, walk people through the genesis of this, how you got involved in this whole Las Vegas shooting story, and then how you and I got together, and then sort of what the experiences have been since we did that documentary, and maybe some of your more recent observations, if you don't mind.
Okay. Well, I mean, my involvement in it is pretty simple. I just I'm the dog walking guy because I was just out with my dogs. I
And then about 10:25, I saw this convoy of helicopters start off like they followed over the 95. And I could see them when they got, over the 15, they went over the 95 and they're spaced about half a mile apart, which is a lot tighter than these things usually fly.
I drive my dogs to a certain spot. In the summertime, it's so hot. You have to take them out after dark. And there's, I can't take them out past where the house is stopped because there's rattlesnakes out there. So there's only certain areas where I can really let them run around and not be bothered by anyone. And the area where I was just, Southwest Las Vegas, just off Decatur between Russell and Sunset. There's some empty lots there. Now, a lot of that area has been built up, and the Allegiant Stadium parking lot is now where I did that interview with you is now in the Allegiant Stadium parking lot, employee parking lot. But I just got out of the car, looked in, and I saw this plane make that big turn. The Southwest plane made this crazy turn, and that definitely caught my attention. And then, like his dogs got out of the car, and I was always careful to make sure there's no cats or coyotes or rabbits or something for them to chase. So I was looking out for that. And then I was also looked over to Mandalay Bay, and it was just happened to be in the background. And there were these 3 attack helicopters. I was, what the hell is this? What's going on here? And then I, as things progressed, and I saw this, and I had no idea what it was. I mean, like I said in the interview, I didn't know if it was a movie. I didn't know what it was. But as soon as I saw that muzzle blast, I got a shot of adrenaline right up my spine. That is, I don't know if you've ever had that adrenaline, but that fear-based adrenaline, where I've had that before when I walked out in the desert in shorts and flip-flops in the spring, and heard a rattlesnake, just very close to me, and you get that same. It's that kind of like this could be it kind of fear,
Describe for people what it was that you saw, because it was about 10 o'clock at night, right?
A little after 10,
right? And you see something, but at the same time, you're far enough away to not hear what's happening. Am I right about that? Right. All right. So help everybody understand what it is that you're seeing that is giving you goosebumps. Like, what is it that's giving you this sensation? What are you seeing?
Attack helicopters with muzzle blast coming off the side. And then I think before that, when I saw the plane make the big turn, and then all the emergency vehicle sirens went on. I mean, from everywhere, just like I said in the interview, just they just popped up from everywhere and just started heading towards the strip and towards the area. And I thought there's a plane crash. And then I saw those helicopters. I was just confused. Like, what is going on? Something's just, I've never seen this before. So obviously something was up, and we don't live in a war zone. So I don't have, it's just like, I saw that. I saw the muzzle blast coming off, but my mind just wouldn't let me think, no, this can't be right. This just, we're not in Aleppo or, this is not a war zone.
Have you ever seen them film anything? Like the Bourne Identity was shot out there. Have you ever
seen? I've seen things filmed before. One time I was driving down the strip in front of the old Desert Inn, and they were shooting Rush Hour there, and I just happened to drive by, and I saw Chris Tucker putting his head out of a manhole one time, and just driving by. So, I mean, yeah, you do see crazy things in Las Vegas here and there. And
did that thought enter your mind? Did you think, oh, maybe
okay. But like I said in the interview, it's just like no production company is going to, no movie studio is going to spend the kind of money to have police coming down the freeway at full speed and, all these emergency vehicles coming. It's just not realistic for a movie. They'd have to, how much would that cost to tie up traffic like that? It would have been announced in the paper. It would have been on the news. Everybody would have known about it. But no, that wasn't the case. So I was like, this can't be. I didn't know. So I just kind of, like I said, I had the dog, so I had to, I was watching them, watching, make sure that they usually like to just start digging up voles and start digging. And, the biggest threat is them chasing a coyote or, some homeless meth head comes up and hassles us or something. Mm-hmm. But that's
Vegas.
Not, what's that?
That's Vegas. You can't handle the heat. You got to get out of the kitchen, right? What do you do? Right.
Right.
All right, so you got so you've got one eye on the dogs, making sure they're not heading off somewhere. You're watching this. The Southwest plane makes this crazy turn. Cops are flying all over the place, and you see the helicopters, and you see muzzle blasts coming out of the helicopters.
Right. The cops started before the muzzle blast, so like they something happened to trigger the police before they started firing on the crowd. At Route 91
or before what you could see from your vantage point, right? They might have been coming around, and who knows what was happening.
Well, that could have been. I don't know, but before the big guns came out.
All right, so once again, so help people understand once again. I'm going to show the map. I'll pull the map up on the screen here. So you're kind of southwest of the Mandalay Bay. So it's
right.
Okay, and it's about 10.
I'm a good 2+ miles.
All right, but when you and I did the first interview, you had the phone set up or whatever, and we could see Mandalay Bay over your shoulder. And I've been out there. I drove past that intersection when Jason and I went out there to do one of the October 1st shows, and I went kind of by where you were to get a sense of, how clear a view is it. And it's a whole lot closer when you're in person than it appears on the telephone. Like when you're using an iPhone to film it, it looks like it's way out on the horizon. When you're standing there and you're only like 1.5 miles, 2 miles away, you see it pretty clearly. Like it's
you sure do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean it's not like it's way off in the distance but it is definitely just far enough away that you wouldn't hear it over the noise of local traffic and cars driving by and whatever. You wouldn't necessarily hear what was happening at that kind of distance. It's a very interesting perspective that you had.
Right. So I was separated from it. Like you said, I got that initial blast of fear that, like I said, like a rattlesnake rattle.
Right.
So I knew there was definitely danger. Like your instincts just tell you this is danger.
Mm-hmm.
But then my rational mind was trying to take over. It's like, oh no, this is can't be what it looks like. And so I was just watching it. Like I said, I saw them move around, and I saw them fire and do this and that, and I didn't know what I was. I had no idea. It was just it's unprecedented. So there's no way to. It's like being like they describe the passengers on the 9/11 planes or something. Mm-hmm. Who knows what really happened there? But you don't have this expectation that you could possibly be flying into the World Trade Center. I don't have this expectation that attack helicopters are going to come up and fire on a concert crowd.
Right. Now, did you know that there was a concert that night? Like, were you aware of the Harvest Festival? Yeah. It's like a big enough.
There's always some every weekend at that time of the year. Once it starts to cool down a little bit in September, and for a good 6 weeks there's always something going on at that lot. It had been for the past few years. It used to be the Luxor employee parking lot, and then they turned it into a concert grounds. But yeah, I said in the video that I drove through there around 6:30. So I knew what was, I knew
that there was a concert. Right.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
All right. So how long did you stay where you were with the dogs, kind of watching? Because your testimony.
I left about 11:15.
Okay. So you were there for well over an hour. Because one of the things I want the audience to understand, and I want you to share with people, because this is something that I've only got, my sitting in an office on the other side of the world perspective looking at flight radar. You're actually standing there realizing something's wrong. I'm guessing you're never there for over an hour walking the dogs. Like that's odd. You don't stay there.
That's what I do every night.
Oh, you're there an hour long?
Out there every night
for an hour?
Yeah, since
since
April.
Once
the sun goes down, and that's my regular area.
All right,
so
but now
I knew the flight patterns of all the if Virgin is flying past 9:45, it's late.
I gotcha.
So
you've baselined this without it. It's like Mr. Miyagi. It's like you did a baseline without knowing you were doing a baseline.
Wax on, wax off.
Wax on, wax off. Hey, wax on, hot. Wax off. Hot. Concentrate. Look at my eye. Lock a hand. Thumb inside. Wax on, hot. Wax off, hot. Wax on, hot. Wax off, hot. Show me wax on, wax off. Hot! 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 Show me paint the fence. Hot! Face! Yes! Yes! Show me side to side. Yes! Yes! Yes!
You were out there for years walking the dog. You know where the planes go. They go this way, they go that way. You know there's a certain
they make
period.
Their turn around Rainbow, right above Rainbow. If they're going, they'll either go
fascinating,
make a left turn to the south or a right turn to the north.
This is fascinating.
Where they're going, if they're going to California or east or something like that. So yeah, I'm very familiar with the area.
So it's not just the familiarity with the area; it's the familiarity with the flight patterns and the fact that
those are my stars.
So
there's so much light pollution, I can't see the stars anyway.
It's hysterical.
So those are my stars. I know the flight patterns. I know where the helicopters fly. I know.
Okay, so now with that, all right, so now that's our baseline. Now you're watching all this and you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. This is not what we normally see out here.
Yeah. I was watching this going, if somebody's going to lose their license over this, their pilot's license, because you can't fly that close to the buildings and fly on top of them. And then like the one between the Luxor and I always want to say the hotel because it's called the hotel before, but it's the Delano.
Yeah.
When they're flying over what used to be called Hacienda and now it's Mandalay Bay Road. But there's like a substation right there. And I was like, God, they're right above it, like a power substation. Yeah. I was like, there's power lines right there. I was like, this is dangerous. I couldn't, I didn't know what I was watching.
All right. The thing that you then end up witnessing, which is stunning, is the real Maverick story. So all we're able to see on flight radar is 7 or 8 helicopters departing Maverick at 10:13 p.m. But your account is different. What you're saying is no. We know now that there were helicopters that didn't have transponders on. We know that. But what you're saying is that there were more than 7 or 8 helicopters in that parade that went out and about and came back. And so I want you to share.
17.
All right, so that's what I want to talk about. So on flight radar at 10:13 p.m., we see a bunch of helicopters start departing Maverick, but there's only about 7, maybe 8 of them that turned on their transponders. They come.
Well, that's what you think, but that flight data is manipulated. Everything I've seen is manipulated.
Okay.
Like I told you in emails that they gave you the general story, but you can't trust what it tells you. Because there's they said 3 helicopters, flight data said 3 helicopters at 9:45. I don't think there were 3 helicopters at 9:45, but there were 3 helicopters at 10:05. So whoever manipulated this, whoever did this, was kind enough to give a general story, like they're trying to tell you something, but they had to disguise it because their superiors told them to disguise it. But if you take eyewitness accounts into it, they'll say, no, there are 3 helicopters there, but they weren't there at 9:45. They're there at 10:05. And there was no helicopter that flew over at 10:15. I don't know why that was all about. I would have seen it because that would have been a very unusual pattern to fly right over.
All right, let's break it down. Because we got a bunch of pieces here. All right. So the first piece is at 9:47 p.m. There are 3 helicopters from Maverick that are returning from a tour. And we see them on camera, and the footage we see them on is the Roger Keenest footage his girlfriend took of this thing that happens apparently up at the Four Seasons at 9:47 p.m. And in that footage, we see the Maverick helicopters coming in, as they normally do, back behind Luxor. Right? They're flying south. They go back behind Luxor, make the turn behind Delano and Mandalay. And the thing that I did when I was looking at all the flight radar stuff, they always turn their transponders off when they get to Mandalay. They always do this. So
where do they turn? So they turn them off like when they get off the freeway or something, over the freeway or something?
As soon as they get to Luxor, Mandalay, they kill the transponder. And the reason is now they're heading towards the runway where they land, right? But they're below 500 feet now. As soon as they go below 500 feet, they're coming in for a landing, and if they had their transponders on and you were departing from one of the other runways, if you were departing from, I think it's 26, if you're departing from one of the other runways, you're going to see transponders at the end of the runway and possibly abort.
Hi guys, I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with John E. Hoover.
But I would say of all the videos that have been brought to my attention, this is probably the most or closest to something that I actually think is a real thing, and I do.
What we do see in John's video is mind-blowing.
But I would say of all the things I've seen, that is got the makings of something that's just really something. There's something there, man. And I do think there's gunfire in that room at that particular moment. It's not a coincidence. It's not something else. That's a weapon being fired up there.
Check this out.
there's been accusations or beliefs there's some explosives going off. That is also false. The only explosive contained in this event was from our SWAT team breaching the room.
They turn their transponders off all the time when they make the turn at Mandalay. So a lot of people misinterpreted that as helicopters hovering over Mandalay. That's not what they do. You see them on camera. You see them come in and they make the turn, they come in, they land. So that's at 9:47. There's no other helicopters departing Maverick on flight radar until 10:13. What I'm suggesting is this blend between what I'm seeing on flight radar is that only 7 of the number that you just said. How many did you say? 17?
The 14 Maverick and 3 killers.
All right, so 14 Maverick and 3 other helicopters. Of the 14 Mavericks, only 7 had transponders turned on. The others did not. And
yeah, but that goes back to, like, I don't believe anything in that much in the flight data, because they could have all had their transponders on for all we know, but whoever manipulated that flight data only included 7.
All right, I'm suggesting it's simpler than that. I'm saying nobody even needed to manipulate the flight data.
Possibly, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
All right, so I'm saying that there's the convergence of what I'm seeing and what you're reporting is perfectly logical. Makes perfect sense. 7 of the helis turn on their transponders so that we can kind of see a breadcrumb trail of what they're doing. And 7 of them never turned on their transponders from Maverick when they left because they had these VIPs on board. Now, well, that's the supposition, right? That's the theory. Right, that's the theory. All right, so now something else happens that I kind of need you to help us with. One of the things that we see on flight radar is that as they, and this isn't, all right, so before we even get to this, let's do a clarification here. I'm not as familiar with the area, obviously, as you are. So when I make comments, when I'm doing the show with Jason, and I'll say something like, the Maverick helicopters then went all the way west out towards Red Rock Canyon. And
anything you say like that, that's where
I know it drives you crazy. Right.
Email to correct.
Right. So that's why I'm saying. That's why I want to bring it up. So when I say things like that, to me, it's like it's in the general vicinity. To me, I just know Red Rock Canyon's out to the west, and it's I love it out there. So to me, when I see them heading out that way, to me, it's towards Red Rock. But then you'll send me an email going, no, dude, they didn't get anywhere near Red Rock. Yeah, they only went to this, boulevard. Right. So help everybody understand. Normally what happens, they go up to the Space Needle, what's it called? The Stratosphere. So why don't you tell people, the pathway. You tell people what normally happens, and then tell people what happened that night. And despite what I saw on flight radar, I want you to tell people, what did you really see? What happened?
Well, what tour helicopters do is they usually, when they take off out of Maverick, they'll fly up to just east of the concert grounds, between the concert grounds and like Atlantic Aviation or something, just over that general area, and fly kind of over Koval, and fly over the Wynn Golf Course, and towards. I've never been on one of these things, but they'll take their route to. They just fly over downtown Fremont Street, and then they come back southbound over the freeway over I-15, and then they're pretty much like eye level with the top of Stratosphere, and then they fly over the convention, make their left turn back to the to Maverick base at by the Mandalay Bay, and fly over the convention center and make that turn in there. And these guys, they fly the same route. They're all flying the same speeds, the same same altitude, everything. It's always the same pattern every time, and then they
so it's basically up and back. They basically are flying up to
it's a quick trip.
So it's up Las Vegas Boulevard. They make the turn at the Stratosphere.
They don't go over Las Vegas Boulevard. They'll go over Koval.
Okay.
They don't fly directly over the boulevard. They go over what Koval is about a half mile east of Las Vegas Boulevard. So they fly off. They go. That's like the first kind of bearing that would just that we can describe that that they take. And
Okay.
it's a real quick trip. I don't know what it is, like $90, $100 or something.
Oh, I think it's more than that.
All night long, man.
No, I think it's more than that. I think it
might be now. I mean, I don't know. I mean, everything's more now.
All right. So they're flying all the way up to the stratosphere. They make the turn. It's almost like 180.
They go past the stratosphere. They go downtown.
Okay. And then they come back. Oh, so they go up as high as Fremont. All right. They head back down almost the same, it's almost like up and back. But the night of the shooting, that's not what happens. Right? You see them come back around, right? You see.
Right. I wasn't paying any attention to them leaving. I couldn't get a good view of them leaving anyway.
Right, because they're flying away. Right, they're flying away from you, flying north.
I had no reason to want to pay attention to it.
Right.
I didn't think anything of it.
Right. But then something happened, and you see a parade of. Tell everybody what you see. What happens later?
That was very unusual. Well, then I saw them come up around, because in the valley, I mean, you can see. There are really no trees to speak of. It's a desert valley, so you have great vision all throughout the valley. You're blocked by the hotels and stuff on the strip or something when you look on the east side. But if something's high enough, you can see it. Like I can see over to Sunrise Mountain, and I could see out, what would Nellis. And when you know the area, you know the distances, where, but basically you can judge where people are. But so I saw these helicopters just start off. Like I said in the interview, they flew basically over the 95, and it curves a little bit, but they took that general direction and then made a left turn, and flew south over Rainbow. And usually when they fly on the tours, when they're flying over the freeway, they're about a mile apart from each other, and they kind of so frequently that, you can kind of see like, oh, here's, there's one flying over Tropicana right now, and look at the other one's like right above Caesars, which would be Flamingo, and this one's like New York. So it's about a mile apart, And anyway, these are spaced a half mile apart. And when they're spaced a half mile apart, it looks tighter, especially when they're flying over the ground. Right. So they were trying to get them out of it. Looking back on it, I didn't know at the time, but they probably just wanted to clear the airspace out as quick as they can. So they had these guys spaced a half mile apart, and I see these, I see the first two were Maverick tour helicopters, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. And I also knew that after September 11th, I remember reading an article in the Review Journal that there's some kind of emergency contingency. Like if something happens, would happen on the strip, and helicopter traffic would be directed 4 miles to the west. And I read that probably 15 years before wow. This happened. And I was like, well, something's going on. That just popped back in my mind. And so something was going on. And then I saw these attacks. I saw that, first two were Maverick. And then I saw that third, which was one of the black attack helicopters with its dim little lights, and it just looked out of place, man. I knew something was wrong, and I started throwing rocks at it, and I didn't know why. I just knew something was wrong. And so I said, geez, there's, I could see them all going. And that one went to the southwest. Like it got to when it got to the 215 and made a turn to the right and went over, like I said in the interview, it would have gone roughly over the Walmart parking lot area.
So that didn't go back. That didn't return to Maverick.
No.
Oh.
No, that went out to Mystery Land.
Okay.
To the southwest. Okay. There's a little low spot. If you look at Mount Potosi, which is southwest of town, it's where, there's the mountain pass where Blue Diamond Road becomes, State Route 160 and goes out to Pahrump. Uh-huh. That just to the south of there, if you as you're going out to Pahrump on your left, there's a real low spot in the mountains, one of the lowest spot in the mountains, and that's where they crossed over the mountains.
Interesting. Okay. All right. I'll pull it up on Google Maps so people can see what you're talking about here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So do you see that there are, Maverick helicopters heading back to Maverick? Like it's clear that there's a couple going one way.
Oh, yeah. They went, I could see them. They went to, like I said, they turned back to the east and between the 215 and Warm Springs and went back and made another left turn into McCarran. The tour helicopters all did that. The Maverick tour helicopters, they all went back to McCarran. They came in from a different different direction than they usually do, because they usually come in from the north, and
Right.
they came in from the south this time.
Sure. Now, how many helicopters do you see break away from the group and head towards the southwest?
Three. The three killers. The three killers. They're easily identifiable because they were just like, one of these things is not like the other. You had all Maverick Tour helicopters, which I thought was unusual because they were all Maverick, but they were all Maverick Tour helicopters. And then the three, I don't know what they were, but people say Black Hawks, or something called Pavehawks. I don't know what they were.
Okay.
But and I haven't really seen anything that quite looked like these. And I was still a ways away. I couldn't get that great a distance,
Right.
but they had sharp angles to them, like they were built for stealth, and they were. They looked like they were built to kill and kill quietly.
Well, we've got Apaches, we've got Blackhawks.
Yeah, they could have been. They were, that type of design.
All right. Well, we know that they were training on all three types of aircraft, right? We know that they were training on all three: Apaches, Blackhawks, and Little Birds. So it could have been any of the above because they were all at the same location, right?
Yeah, they're all the same type though. They didn't mix them up. The three that I saw were all the same type. And then we'll get into this I saw two more over by the airport that I didn't really, realize at the time, but
Fascinating.
they had the same light signature.
All right. So the aspect of this testimony that's really pivotal is the quantity of aircraft. Because if we go simply by what I can see on flight radar, obviously, as you've pointed out, that's not what happened, right? That is in some way, whether or not anybody monkeyed with the evidence or not, we don't even need to prove that. In other words, it's perfectly acceptable to think, well, in the craziness of the situation, half the pilots didn't turn on their transponders. Half of them did, half of them didn't. You're telling us 14 aircraft returned, and 3 went down to the south and to the west, and you're standing there.
Correct.
And you're so familiar with these flight patterns. It's not something that it's like, well, it's really the first time I paid attention to the aircraft. I mean, that's not what you're saying.
Right.
So this is stunning testimony. One of the hashtags I've used over the years, this changes everything. This changes the whole nature of what happened that night. 14 helicopters.
Yes, when I was watching it, I didn't know. Because I knew there's something going on around there, so I thought they, around Mandalay Bay. I thought, well, maybe they just delayed the tour helicopters from coming back, and they had a bunch of them, bunched up in the northeast part of the valley. So that's kind of what, when I was watching this, that's what I thought was happening when they weren't able to get the tour helicopters back quick enough. And I was I knew those attack helicopters I knew they were bad. They were out of place. I didn't know what really happened until I got home, but think of the freaking balls it takes for those guys to do that. They got in that group, knowing they're going to get away. I mean, that's just.
I think they were ready to die.
Unbelievable to me that they got away with it. They did it and they got away with it.
I think they were ready to die.
It was me throwing rocks at them.
Yeah. Anybody, I think, who signed up for that mission was prepared to go down in a ball of fire.
Oh my God. I mean, well, you know what? Like if your hypothesis is correct and they knock off the current king and help the new king get in power, their lives are set.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, so that's an important point. They become heroes if they're successful.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. They might get killed if they fail. But if they pulled this off, you're right. They would have been treated like heroes.
Yeah.
They would have been set for life. Mm-hmm.
Generations.
You're definitely right.
Until they kill a new king.
Were you ladies here 5 years ago?
Yep.
You were?
Yep.
You know about the shooting and all that?
Here, John, stand a little closer.
You were there.
You were at the concert.
We were at the concert.
Thank goodness you're all right.
Yep.
And what do you think about the police and their findings? Do you think Stephen Paddock did all that shooting from that hotel room?
I really don't.
Did you know that a year after the police released body camera footage, and on multiple police body cameras, you can see that the window to the room isn't even broken?
Really?
At 10:30 at night?
Yeah. We spoke to a bunch of eyewitnesses, who said that they believe that they were being fired at by helicopters.
That's what I thought.
You thought
You
helicopters?
thought that? Yeah.
What made you think that?
Hang on.
No, she can't handle it. She
Okay,
handle it.
okay.
She's very
Too emotional.
Yeah.
So-
I thought it was.
All right.
That's what I called my husband. I told him.
Helicopters.
So there's a bunch of eyewitnesses that say they're shooting at us from the helicopters.
So we were just talking about what you witnessed and, you know, how game changing it is. And I wanted to see if you could spend a minute talking to the audience about what happened when you got back home and you turned on the television and sort of the sensation and the, you know, tell everybody about what that was like.
Sure. I knew something was up, and I kept like looking at my phone. I'd go to the review journal online. I see something, I went to an app store and started looking at police scanners, and then I thought I was going to get myself trapped into something that I, be paying $5 a month for something I didn't want forever, and whatever it is. I'll see it when I get home. And that's why I didn't take any video, but too, I thought, because any video I get, it's not going to be that good. And I thought for sure, but if this is anything, by the time I get home, somebody else will already post it to YouTube, and, they'll get better video than me, but that never happened.
Right.
And, so anyway, I get home and I turn on the TV, and then it's just, there's a reporter down on the strip, and it's just chaos down there.
Yes, no. Here, Greg. All right, can you hear me okay? Well, good evening. Obviously, I'm Sheriff Joe Lombardo from Clark County, and I'm here to talk to you about the tragic event that's taken place and is currently taking place at the Mandalay Bay out on the Las Vegas Boulevard South. We experienced an active shooter situation approximately 10:08 p.m. tonight. This evening, we had calls come into dispatch of multiple shots being fired from the direction of the Mandalay Bay towards the Route 91 concert that was taking place on the east side of Las Vegas Boulevard. Through investigation and response, we determined there was a shooter on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay. Officers responded to that location and engaged the suspect at that location. He is dead. Currently, he has been identified. He is a local resident. I will not release his name at this time, but we are interested in a companion that is traveling with him, and her name is, and I will provide you the name, so please be accurate on this, is Mary Lou Danley, Marilou, last name spelled Danley. She is a Asian female, approximately 4 foot 11, weight of 111 pounds. We have not located her at this time, and we are interested in talking to her for follow-up. 2 vehicles we're interested in locating, and we need your assistance with that. We have a Hyundai Tucson with Nevada plate. Nevada plate 19D401. These are the plates registered to the suspect that we located at the Mandalay Bay. So there's a couple of things that need to occur at this time. One is the Red Cross is responding to the headquarters here at the police department at 400 South Martin Luther King to receive any phone calls from family members who are trying to locate their family that attended the concert and are unable to contact them. So that number will be established here shortly, and we'll get it out to you to publicize it here shortly. Additionally, anybody that may have cell phone video or any type of video associated with this event that would be a benefit to the investigation, please respond to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department headquarters at 400 South Martin Luther King, and we will take custody of that video. So if you have it, you evaluate it, and you think it would be a benefit, please bring that down to the headquarters. So family members, if you are unable to call or you do not want to wait for a call and you want to respond in person, we have set up a family retreat area for you to respond so we can help you locate your loved ones. here at the headquarters. So you will be contacted by a police officer here at the headquarters, and they will direct you to where you need to go. Standing with me is Special Agent in charge of the FBI, Aaron Rouse. He is assisting with the investigation, which is ongoing. And then we have Fire Chief Greg Castle from Clark County Fire, and they are assisting with all the victims. Now, as far as number of victims, I cannot give you an accurate number at this point. We have well in the excess of 100 plus injured and excess of 20 plus that have died at this point. So we will get those numbers to you accurately as soon as we can. But please bear with us. This is an ongoing investigation. But we are comfortable that the primary aggressor in this event has expired or passed away and is no longer a threat. There's been multiple phone calls and accusations or conjecture coming through social media that there's multiple shooters at other resorts. That has been proven to be false. Additionally, there's been accusations or beliefs there's some explosives going off. That is also false. The only explosive contained in this event was from our SWAT team breaching the room. So please, we are pretty confident that there is no longer a threat other than we are attempting to locate the person of interest.
Was this an act of terrorism?
No, not at this point. We believe it's a local individual. He resides here locally. I'm not at liberty to give you his place of residence yet because it's an ongoing investigation. We don't know what his belief system was at this time.
Any kind of motive or anything?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Any kind of motive or clue?
No, we have no idea at this point. It's an ongoing investigation. As you can imagine, it just happened. So please bear with us, but we have all the forces to bear from public safety handling the situation.
And you believe he acted alone? Did he act
Okay,
alone?
I'm going to say this one more time. We do not know. It's an ongoing investigation. Right now, we believe he is the sole aggressor at this point, and the scene is static. We are attempting to locate the person of interest.
Safety of first responders? Safety of first responders? Medics?
Yeah, we have. I have 2 police officers that are currently at the hospital. One in critical condition, the other one minor injuries. But there are other police officers that were off duty attending the concert that have expired. We don't have those individuals identified at this point.
And medics, there were rumors that the medics were being shot at when they were coming to get the people who were wounded. Is that true? Or?
I don't know the sequence of events on that.
Can you explain
One more time, you're saying how many people who are injured and how many people who are dead?
Right now, we believe it's 100 plus injured and 20 plus dead.
Right now, there are.
Okay, and I don't want to give you an accurate number because I do not have it at this point.
Right now, there are still people on lockdown, on the strip. What do you say to people who are afraid right now, or what should they do? Should they stay on lockdown?
I still want them to shelter in place. They will be contacted by first responders, and they will advise them when they're free to go. It's better to shelter in place than to be unaware.
Sheriff, clarifying, you said there are officers who have died?
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Officers who have died.
We believe there's a couple off-duty officers that were attending the concert that may have died. We don't have them identified yet.
Do we know the relationship among the women that you were associating and the aggressor?
All I know at this point is they are roommates.
What kind of weapon was used?
I can't give you that now.
Do you know if they checked in hazardous manuals?
Yes, we believe so.
Would you be able to repeat the make and models of the cars that you're looking for?
Yes, absolutely. We are looking for a Hyundai Tucson, unknown color, Nevada plate 114B40. Additionally, we're looking for a Chrysler Pacifica Touring, unknown color, Nevada plate 19D401.
And I'm thinking, oh my God, really? Oh, they're shooting down there, and they were talking about shooters on the ground.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I got, I was just engrossed in that. Oh my God, what's people were being shot, and I was, oh my God, and I was wondering. Nobody's talking about the helicopters though. Even immediately they weren't talking about the helicopters, but they were talking about the shooters on the ground, which I found very interesting and compelling. I was paying attention to that, and so obviously it was. I didn't really think about the helicopters because there's, that kept my attention with the, what was going on.
Sure,
that time
sure.
attention.
Yeah. So you're listening, you're watching, you're like,
I
okay.
But I knew there's a lot more going on here than
right.
Yeah.
But it doesn't come up. And as you're watching,
no.
And it's now, how late do you stay up that night? Because you said you were still out there till 11:15. Yeah. So
yeah, I thought about going back. I thought about going down there.
Did you get to see? Did you see any of Lombardo's press conferences? Did you see like his 1:30 a.m.?
I did. Yeah, I did. I did watch it, and he looked nervous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I knew that he looked nervous, and he was. I was watching it knowing there was more than he was saying, more than he was telling us. But then, because we had, the news at that time was organic. It hadn't been adulterated in any way.
Right.
We knew that they were reporting what was really happening.
Right.
There's shots fired at Bellagio. There's shots fired all these different hotels on the Strip. There's people. People were locked into the hotels. It was crazy. It was.
Mm-hmm. Now, the first time that you hear on the news that Lombardo has said, no, it's a lone gunman, this is the next morning, I'm guessing?
Well, yeah, the thing is, how can he say there's a lone gunman when the other the news reporters are saying there's shots fired here, there's shots fired everywhere. And then it took a while for them to get their story straight. And then a couple hours later, it's like, oh, lone gunman, everybody fell, they all fell in line. Everybody.
Well, what I'm getting at is,
it long for everybody to fall in line.
No, I got you. But at some point on Monday, you're watching the news. You're watching the news on Monday. You're checking everything. And at some point on Monday, you've got to go, is anybody going to mention the helicopters? I mean, when did...
You know what? I heard on the local radio did. I remember I was listening to... He probably doesn't want his name even mentioned, but Alan Stock, our local radio guy, he said people calling the show and they saw helicopters. So I'm not the only one. I didn't think that I had anything that unique.
Interesting
to report.
Interesting,
because other people were saying they saw them. And if you go down to the government center down at Grand Central, Grand Central Parkway and Clark County Government Center, they've got this little memorial up there with a book, and people. They report their experiences in there, and writing, and there are people in there that they're people giving their testimony, and they say they saw helicopters. So it's not just me, and it's not. And I'm surprised they even allowed that in there. I think they just snuck in. But if you go read through that stuff, you can see there's people.
All right, so you think you're thinking, I can't be the only guy who saw this, right? There's somebody else.
Oh, I knew I wasn't the only guy. Yeah, I can't be the only guy. Right. Because if you look, you're flying they're right there on the freeway. Jeez, how could you?
Yeah, right. Right. Nobody notices this. Right. Nobody notices.
The thing is, I can understand how people wouldn't see it, because at that time you figure the overwhelming majority of people are inside. They're not looking. They're it's Sunday at 10 o'clock. People are getting ready for bed. They got to go to work the next day.
Yeah.
So go to school, work. So they're the majority of local people are in bed, and they're getting ready. So they're inside, and those that aren't outside are probably in their cars. And when you're in your car, you're not looking up, you're looking, your immediate field of view. And these helicopters are black. So unless you happen to, they're tough. They weren't easy to see, except when they were right next to the building. So even then, I mean, because many times I've come in from the westbound 215, making a turn, that on ramp onto the northbound 15, and you just come up this little ramp, and you're just like, boom, right. It would be right in your field of view. So people had to have seen that, but even though probably not, because you may have seen it just doesn't register.
This is a test of selective attention. Count how many times the players wearing white pass the basketball. How many passes did you count? The correct answer is 15 passes. But did you see the gorilla? This video is from research by Daniel Simons and Christopher Chabris and is copyrighted.
Because it's even military helicopters are not uncommon in the valley.
Right.
They're not,
because of Nellis. Because of Nellis, right?
Right. Yeah. But they're uncommon there, but it might not register to people because people just don't.
Well, it's the gorilla. You remember the gorilla illusion, right? You've seen the videos today, right?
Yeah, it's very much what it is.
So people aren't looking for it, and therefore they don't see it. And
nobody's looking for it.
Right.
The air traffic control in Nellis wasn't looking for it. I mean, who knows? This stuff just doesn't happen. And what really upsets me is they're probably still not looking for it.
Well, so this is sort of the next level of the conversation that I wanted to get into with you, which is, now that we've had this documentary out there for 2.5 years, it's one of the most viewed videos that I've done. And it
still doesn't have that many views.
No, but in the past 2.5 years since my channel has been, what do they call it?
Right.
Is it visibility managed, or whatever that's called?
Right.
Curated, however they want to term it. The video that interview is one of the most viewed videos that I have in this period. So before then, like in the early days, I used to get 80,000 views and stuff like that. But that ended. And so in this new world, my videos only get 2,000 views. But that story with you is one of the most viewed videos that I've done in the last 2.5 years, if not the most.
So that's interesting. So that shows that people have to copy the link and send it probably.
I think it's a topic that people really want to get to the heart of. And when they get to hear from an eyewitness who came at this with no bias. In other words, you didn't even know that there was a shooting. And you said, why are there balls of fire coming out of these helicopters? What is
I don't want to call it muzzle blast because it looked like it, but I'm trying to be as objective as I can and say balls of fire. I mean, what is it?
Yeah. So, and then your account that talks about the aircraft returning and seeing, distinctly aircraft going back to Maverick and aircraft heading down to the south and to the west. I mean, this is huge. This is game-changing testimony. And the fact that we've got people you've mentioned before, the other guys that I've been able to meet with, the Sharks, the people who went to the...
I was really grateful to him for coming out and the night, and, that were inspired after my interview to do an interview with you. Thank you. Because I was hoping that would happen, that people would come forward. I had no, I knew with great confidence that I'm not the only one that saw this.
And he saw from a different perspective. So he wasn't where you were. He
saw the instrument panel, he said.
He could see through the glass floor that they have in the Blackhawks. So the Blackhawks have this Lexan floor panel so that the pilots can see the ground. And he said, I could see up through it and see the glowing instrument panel through the floor panel. He said, that's how I knew it was a Blackhawk.
That's how low they were, though.
Yeah. And they were in the candy store.
He didn't say that he didn't mention the sound.
No. And he said they were right outside the M&M store or something, one of the candy stores on Las Vegas Boulevard.
And so I'm sitting at the crosswalk, and I'm just like, well, this thing must be stuck. Just nonchalantly just waiting for it to change. And then coming from my right is a black helicopter, a Huey helicopter. What made it distinguishable was the fact that the helicopter had two window plates underneath the nose of the helicopter, where you can see part of the framing of the helicopter. It had a back door on the right side that was fully open with a black curtain drawn. And the curtain was open enough to where I could see the light green luminescence of the instrument panel of the helicopter. I could not see any bodies in it. I couldn't see anything other than that color and then the passenger seat of the helicopter. But it flew low enough that I could see that there was a black curtain, the door was open, and the color of the instrument panel.
And they had just come out of the candy store, and he's like, what the hell is this? And then we have the other family that just came out of that jousting thing at the Excalibur that they do. So they had just
round table.
Yeah, so they just came out of that thing, and they're coming outside getting ready to walk to the car, and they see from that perspective. And today I'm joined by another eyewitness from the Las Vegas shooting. And as in the past, we're not going to get into names, and it's just not that important. So I'm going to welcome you to the show and say thank you kindly for joining us. First question, did you see the dog walking guy's video? Did you see the video?
I sure did.
You did? Cool.
Yeah, I watched the whole hour-long plus video you did the other day.
And you've been watching our stuff for some time, right? You've been watching the channel for a while, right?
I've been watching it since your first video.
Wow. Okay.
And I'll tell you the reason I did that was I seen some things that night, and including helicopters, and you were the first one to actually come on board and claim there was helicopters there. And I knew what I seen, and I only believe what my two eyes see. And no one else would come through with that narrative, and you haven't varied from that for over 3 years. So I pretty much watched every video you've put out, including the coronavirus stuff.
So when you have different people from different walks of life corroborating the same account, it's remarkable. But your perspective and the fact that you're so familiar with the flight patterns and the fact that you actually stood there and counted the helicopters because you knew something was weird, that's game-changing. That's game-changing testimony. All right, so the frustration that we share...
That's my elementary school police liaison telling you to if you see something you maybe ask questions later, like I said in the video. So I remember anything unusual to take note of it. So
you did it, man.
You did it. Officer Chile for that.
It's huge. And again, it's game-changing testimony. So the frustration that we share is, how do we prosecute this? How do we get justice? And recently, it seems that the Vegas shooting has been getting more attention again. So it's been 5.5 years, a little over 5 years, and it just keeps coming back, it seems. It's a story that people are not willing to drop. And every time I do an interview on it, these videos get more and more views than anything I'm doing on coronavirus. So people really want to know what's going on with the Vegas shooting. So why don't we talk a little bit about sort of your impression of, a lack of justice, your frustrations with that. And
God, I don't even know where to go, because what is justice? I mean, how can you get justice? If everybody saw what I saw, it could have led to Armageddon. So I struggle with this daily, all day, every day for 5+ years. Like I can't tell you, I have no idea how much sleep I've lost. I mean, it's really impacted me. But what is justice? I don't know. I mean, like when Trump said in his tweet, they know what they're doing. That's kind of what you have to do. What can we do? You got like the B team of the government coming in and shooting us up. Now, I wanted to. I was throwing rocks at him. I wish I had Superman strength, but I don't.
Well, it appears
I don't know what justice is.
Well, it appears again, if I'm right, and I could be wrong. Right, I'm not.
You're on the right track. I mean, I'm right with. As soon as I saw that muzzle flash, I suspected. I know I know the neighborhood. I know. Let's say I know the neighborhood.
I hear you. Well, and again, if in fact he's there for a sure dinner, and all the pieces are in place, and it's an assassination attempt, again, that kind of adds up. And it certainly makes the whole November 5th Night of the Long Sword make a whole lot more sense.
Yeah, it does.
And it also makes chopping Jamal Khashoggi up on the 1 year anniversary. So you know that, right?
I'm still curious. I've got, I'm curious, like, what did he do? I know he wrote his letters, but he had to have some kind of active involvement. And in fact,
I'll speculate. Okay.
You want to speculate now on that?
Sure. I'll tell you what I think happened.
Okay, go ahead. You go ahead.
MBS has access to all the same spy equipment that we do. All right, so he can listen to people's cell phone calls. He's got the Pegasus stuff. He's got all the stuff out of Israel. He buys everything. If it's good and it works, he buys it. He's a simple man. And if he wants to listen to Jamal Khashoggi's phone calls, he can do that.
Jammers, and of course some very powerful surveillance tech.
And what we enable is to actually intercept phone calls, gather intelligence in order to prevent, hopefully, terror attacks.
So you have this rucksack in this box, and you can put it down in a location, in a crowd at a protest, for instance, something like that, and it can intercept 30 phone calls simultaneously within that radius.
This small box. So if you're in a crowded city, such as Paris, for example, you can be getting thousands of calls an hour.
I guess, when you're intercepting that many calls, you must be intercepting lots of people you don't want to, lots of innocent people just going about using their phones. So how do you make sure that you don't get the wrong people on the call?
Well, the thing is, what we would recommend doing is mass interception. Of course, we don't want to invade anybody's privacy. But at the end of the day, the problem is that you can never know what cell phone the criminals will be using.
Another stand was selling a piece of kit that could rip a huge amount of data off phones that had their Wi-Fi switched on. So it's like a Facebook profile that you put in front of me. It's like photos, it's passwords, details about his phone, his device, his carrier, his country, his address, his web history. Is there a concern that innocent people may be caught up in that process?
We sell a car. How you drive it, it's your responsibility.
Now, if he's got a recording of Jamal Khashoggi describing to somebody how Mohammed bin Salman should be killed and how first he should witness his wife being killed and his children being killed first, yeah, I'd have cut him up too.
Oh, yeah.
I'd have used a deli slicer.
Yeah.
Right? I would have gone nice and slow.
Oh, he's the de facto king. If you're going to try and kill the king, you better get it right.
Yeah, and you better not get your phone calls recorded. So no. I'm betting that MBS had a recorded phone call of Khashoggi planning the murder. And because Khashoggi's not a Saud, he's not a direct descendant of Ibn Saud. So that means MBS gets to do whatever he wants. And I think he filmed it. Again, this is what I would do. So this is counterterrorism. Counterterrorism is when you have to put yourself into the shoes of other people in crazy situations. And you ask yourself, well, what would you do? What would you do if you had a recording of an old family friend planning your murder, the murder of your children and your wife you're listening to the recording. He's doing it in detail. I'd get a video camera. I'd send a team to Turkey. And I'd give him an appointment at the embassy at exactly 10 p.m. Las Vegas time at the 1 year anniversary.
Well, you and MBS think alike then.
So Jamal Khashoggi was killed at 8 a.m. October 2nd in Turkey. Yeah, what time was that in Las Vegas?
Only 10 hours ahead, right?
Oh, well, so it's 10 p.m. So at 10 p.m. Las Vegas time, Jamal Khashoggi was killed 1 year after the shooting. I mean, to the hour. Mansour bin Mukran, the son of Mukran bin Abdulaziz. So Mukran bin Abdulaziz was crown prince at one point. He was going to be the king, which means Mansour bin Mukran, his son, is like, dude, I'm going to be king. If my dad's going to be king, that means I'm going to be crown prince.
See, one thing I think people don't really know, we have this expectation that Saudi royalty is kind of like British royalty, where, you know, we have this patrilineal inheritance, and we know Charles is going to be king. There's no dispute. Nobody questions this. Nobody disputes. And we know William's going to be king, and we know his kid, you know,
that's right.
No dispute. And they, you know, nobody.
Important observation that, you know, I don't think even Bruce Rydell points this out. So it's an important point that you're making, which is, in the Saudi family, it's not necessarily just father to son, father to son, father to son. It hasn't been that simple. And they've passed the throne across cousins, and the appointment of MBS in lieu of Mukran bin Abdulaziz and Mohammed bin Nayef was earth-shattering in their world. Basically, they pushed aside the old guard, the guys in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, and said, no, we're going to bring in a guy who's 31 years old.
And all these crazy ideas too. I mean, no, he has. I can understand why they'd be a little upset about him. You know, he comes up with some crazy projects that could bankrupt the whole country. You know?
Well, again, I don't like to use the term crazy, so I like to, you know, he's got a whole different
energetic ideas.
There you go. There you go.
Energetic ideas.
So he did this thing called Middle Beast, and Middle Beast was like Burning Man meets Coachella in the Saudi Arabian desert. And he brought in every one of the Vegas DJs, Steve Aoki, David Goyeta.
In the desert of Riyadh.
In terms of scale, this project is in many ways off the charts for anything that's been done for this type of production worldwide.
An epic, all-out spectacular electronic dance music festival featuring 200 artists, 4 days of music across 7 stages, and the tallest stage the world has ever seen.
One of the most amazing things about this show is just the insane amount of knowledge and experience that all of the collective team has, and it's just this really amazing collaborative team spirit approach.
It took a team working around the clock for 4 months in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to pull off the impossible.
We have housing on site, we have transportation networks, we have logistical networks, we have water and sewer systems, power grids, everything that you would find in a city we've created here.
Transforming a 5.3-kilometer desert landscape into a kick-ass festival grounds. This is Middle Beast Soundstorm.
It says a lot about a show when you drive around backstage, and even the backstage is just as impressive. And I think that speaks a lot about the organization and the team we've had here and all the professionals working on the show.
One of the main focus is being able to get all of our attendees onto the internet via Wi-Fi. And to do that, we have made one of the largest temporary deployments of wireless and wired infrastructure for a festival in the world.
It was an unforgettable, immersive, mind-bending, next-level music festival.
It's been incredible to work with all of these different nationalities.
I mean, I'm very proud to be part of this and proud to share it with everyone back home.
Delivering unexpected moments, over-the-top entertainment, and big, bold designs. This is Middle Beast Soundstorm.
everybody who's got their picture on the side of the MGM over there, right?
Yeah.
They were all brought out to the Middle East to play
to
this
a country that doesn't allow music, really.
Yeah, and so now
Doesn't allow
imagine,
entertainment.
right? So what do you think the old Wahhabi guys, the old school Wahhabi Sunni Muslims, are like? What the hell is going on here?
He has his enemies.
Oh yeah, and he's letting women drive. I mean, even Americans are questioning that.
He spent a lot of time over here.
Yeah, so he's very progressive that
Rainbow
way.
flags were flying over Riyadh at that festival. I mean, that's gotta piss some people off.
That's
right?
yeah. So this is the old guard says, you know what? There's your. That's it. That's reason enough to cut his head off. And
It is.
to them,
It is, yeah.
to them, to a
Yes,
Sunni,
absolutely, yeah.
to a Sunni Wahhabi. That's
He's got guts, man. MBS has got. He's got.
Yeah.
This guy's got some. These guys, they've all got. The guy's trying to kill him, and MBS, all these guys.
You talk about Game of Thrones, boy.
Some fucking strong characters.
You talk about Game of Thrones. So
Oh man.
So the murder of Khashoggi is really only effective if it's videotaped. And then you get to show it at the next family function. And then you ask anybody if there's
what happened? He showed it.
Oh, hell yeah. Come on. Hell yeah. And is it?
To Khashoggi's family?
No, to Al Walid bin Talal and Maita bin Abdullah and Mohammed bin Nayef, and they had a big get together, and he put it up on the big screen. They put it up on the big screen.
Oh man.
And he said, so are there any questions? Anybody else have any good ideas?
Would you trust your secrets to Al Walid bin Talal?
Oh my God. Dude, every last one of them wants to kill him. And this is why I think that the meeting that Trump had with the family, when Trump went over there, I think it was Trump and Jared and Ivanka. I think it was King Salman and MBS and Khalid. And I think and that was it. And the conversation was.
You think King Salman was there that weekend?
No. I'm saying when Trump went to Saudi Arabia, he sat down with King Salman and MBS.
Yeah.
He had Jared and Ivanka with him.
When I saw that muzzle flash,
Yeah.
because I told you I initially suspected this person, I just didn't know why. But it went through my mind that remember when Trump first met him and like when Obama went over there, he gave him a full like 90-degree bow, completely supplicated to him, genuflect, and just and Trump went over there and gave him kind of like a little head nod, like, hey, what's up, man?
Well, when Trump arrived, they gave Trump a royal reception.
Yeah.
I mean, they had Lippens and her stallions trotting down the street. I mean, it was something else when he arrived.
Some pretty powerful visuals here as our president is escorted by black and white horses carrying U.S. and Saudi Arabian flags. I mean, this is pomp and circumstance, as you would presume in Riyadh, as big as it gets. And as I said earlier, certainly a contrast to some of the other arrivals that Americans have received in recent years.
Yeah, if you're just tuning in right now, this is the president arriving at the Royal Palace Court there, where he's about to receive a medal as well. It's a collar presentation of a famous medal that the president, the king, will be handing to him. King Salman will be handled. They're having coffee at the time, just shortly after that ceremony, and then he's going to go to a banquet a short time later. But this is the official arrival ceremony.
And in the Middle East, respect, as Colonel Tony Schaefer said, is so important. How they greet you, how you are greeted, how are you received, is oftentimes a very big symbol of how much you are valued or how much you are respected. And a ceremony like this, a reception like this, I think says a lot, a great deal about how the kingdom views President Trump.
Especially after we just read those headlines of, giving advice to the places he's visiting to make sure that President Trump wins in this thing. That's not what this is about at all. This is about the president also showing that same amount of respect back to Saudi Arabia and other places he's going to visit. As you saw there, though, quite a warm welcome.
And just at a high level, and Bree, take a look at this too. This is kind of amazing. I don't know I've ever seen this before. Look how many cameras they have here, and how many shots are available to the press, and the way in which the Saudi Arabia, look at this, wide shots. Think how many cameras are here, and you know that the king and his team made sure that this was captured from all angles to capture this sort of arrival of this president. It's pretty amazing. I can't recall ever seeing something like this.
It was.
the thing that people need to keep in mind is that when Trump went to visit Saudi Arabia, it was the first trip he made as president. The first foreign trip he made was to Saudi Arabia. And when he went there, he went to meet King Solomon. And what he had with him in his hand was the 28 pages unredacted version with all the names. And he sits down with King Solomon. He goes, "Who's this guy? Who's this guy?" And King Solomon says, "Those are the people that want you dead. And we don't trust them either. My son is going to be running the kingdom. He's the future Saudi Arabia."
So that was in May, right?
I think you're right. I think it was May of
That
2017.
was in May, and then
yeah,
Mohammed bin Nayef was still the crown prince.
I think bin Nayef was the crown prince, meaning he was already the second one. I think they've already gone through Mukrin.
Right.
Mukrin
But
was.
you said
Yeah, Mukrin was pushed aside for Mohammed bin Nayef. Mohammed bin Nayef is crown prince, and then they make MBS crown prince, and they push Mohammed bin Nayef aside.
Mohammed bin Nayef he was injured in an assassination attempt, right?
I believe you're right. I think a couple of these guys, and in fact,
he was, and it was like a suicide bomber, right? Wasn't it? And this suicide bomber, if there's a suicide bomber Hall of Fame, this guy deserves to be in it because I think he stuck a bomb right up his rectum.
I think you're right.
And went in.
Yeah,
and
you're right.
You're
right. I think you're right. I think it was a suicide attempt on Muhammad. I'm going to pull it up on Wikipedia and share it with the audience, but I think you're right. I think it was
I saw that on one of your videos.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. So, as you said, these guys, they'll kill each other. And when
there's a lot of it's crazy wealth and crazy.
That's it. It's the most wealth. So
we can't imagine that kind of wealth.
Trillions. It's trillions of dollars.
Trillions.
Trillions.
Kind of power and just
it's anything you want. You see a yacht.
We work our whole lives for $1,500 check from Social Security. Thinking we're
And then we're set. Yeah, and then we're set. Yeah, and if you can somehow figure out how to get out to $2,000 a month and go live in Thailand, then now you got it made. And these guys have got trillions of dollars. When MBS bought the Leonardo da Vinci painting of Jesus Christ, and he paid $450 million for it, he hung it in his boat. Okay. So that's MBS. So his $450 million Leonardo da Vinci painting of Jesus is on Serene. Serene is the boat. So God bless MBS. So again, I wanted to talk a little bit more about some of your experiences lately because, you watch a lot of the content that's out there. You've seen my work. And I wanted to get your opinion on sort of people who talk about the Las Vegas shooting and seem to either ignore the helicopter end of the story or minimize the helicopter end of the story or shrug their shoulders at it or put it in the same category as door locks and say, there's a bunch of helicopters and then, we'll spend the same amount of time talking about other aspects of the story. It's like, but what does that have to do with people getting shot?
Yeah, I can't speak to people's motivations for why they say that, why they refuse to believe it when there's so many witnesses that have seen it, and there's though the flight data is manipulated, they still whoever was manipulated it was generous enough to show us that they were there. So I mean, we have evidence that the helicopters were there. And, we have the video where you see these
right, yeah,
inconsistent with anything else.
Right.
So I can't speak to their motivations for doing it, but it's Paddock is a distraction. The whole Paddock, anything related to Paddock, anything related to is just a distraction. Obviously, he was there for a reason, but like you said, he's probably dead well before it started. And he's the fall guy. He's the patsy, and anything related to Paddock is just a waste of effort to if you're legitimately trying to investigate this and you're not trying to distract anybody. But Paddock is a distraction.
It seems that
it's not even, I feel bad for the guy. That's why one reason why I want to come out, because it could happen to any one of us. We don't know.
Oh yeah.
If they could blame a spaghetti armed 64-year-old that drove a minivan down from Mesquite, they could blame anybody.
Well, that's why
anyone could have been blamed for anything in the future. So this poor guy is, lives in infamy, possibly.
That's why I took Jason to a hotel with a car full of guns. And so I wanted him to see
guns in a hotel. People make that. It's crazy. Of course, you can bring guns in a hotel.
Of course. I mean, I'm not going to leave my guns in the car in a parking lot, right? Yeah. So when Jason and I, the first time Jason and I went to Vegas together, I get out there and I've got a car full of guns because we're going to go shooting in the desert, and I wanted him to see what it's like to shoot an AR-15 and what it's like to shoot a bigger gun, a 308 style gun. And I also wanted him to see that it's okay to bring guns into the hotel room.
Yeah.
We're not going to open the window and shoot anybody out the window. We're just not
break the window anyway. So
we're not leaving them in the car is the point. I'm not leaving a whole bunch of weapons in a car overnight in Las Vegas that's parked in some parking lot. We're not going to do that. So the guns are brought inside. That's not like a suspicious thing if you're a shooter. Now, again, he has a minivan. How many people was he expecting to be driving around then if he's got a minivan?
Probably none.
No. I think.
Oh, he brought the Tannerite, I guess, huh? And
yeah. So all right. Well, we know that he had 3 women with him. You know that part of the story, right? I
heard that. Yeah.
All right. So he's got 3 women with him. So to me, what it appears that was happening here is the 3 women honeypotted him, clearly. We know from eyewitnesses that there were women at the concert that were saying, "You're all going to die tonight. You're all going to die."
Right.
But they were identified as Hispanic. And what I frequently point out,
it's a very broad term,
and I point out to people that if you look at Saudi Arabian women without a burqa, without any kind of headdress on, are you sure that that's not a South American woman? Can you tell the difference? They're kind of hard to tell apart. And so I understand why people in Las Vegas might think that they were Hispanic, but what if they were actually Saudi, these women? Would you have been able to tell the difference? So if a bunch of Saudi women were checked in with him, but they dress in Western jeans, right? So they look like, it's kind of hard to tell they're Saudis.
Yeah, they fit in with the crowd, sure.
Absolutely. And if they're checked into the room with him, 3 women, Katie, Joanne, and Laura are their names, it appears that he may have thought he was entertaining a bunch of, Ferrari driving, McLaren driving, young wealthy guys who can't purchase rifles.
I lost you there for several seconds. I don't know what happened, but
all right. So I think he believed he was taking a couple people out to the desert shooting.
He could have,
and therefore
he's a distraction. Who cares what he's doing?
Right. He's got a minivan, but the point is, somebody talked him into bringing a whole bunch of weapons and ammo up to that room, and that sets the stage for commandos to head upstairs and try and kill MBS, meaning.
Or just to set the stage.
Right. In other words, we just need a white guy to bring the guns. Right. If we can find a white guy to bring the guns and kill him, well, now we got an arsenal.
Right.
That's ideal. All right. So somebody said, I'll take care of that.
He only has two trigger fingers, probably his right hand, and he's got really one to. I don't know how you can shoot 23 guns at a time, but
no, he was dead, dude. He was dead for hours. By the time Levi Hancock blew that door open, he'd been dead for some time. I mean,
probably.
Somebody said that they had evidence that something happened at 3:45 p.m. It may have been 7 p.m. I don't know, but he was dead when Levi kicked it. When they blew the door, he was dead. Now, the fact that Levi gets a shot off anyway is odd. But as you said, everything that's happening inside the building has nothing to do with people getting shot in the face outside because Paddock is dead. So if the window isn't broken, Paddock's dead on the floor, you see helicopters outside firing guns, why are other investigators looking into things like door locks and crap like that? To me, it's like, you should be looking into who the hell are the people in the helicopters with the guns? Is John Cullen right or wrong? Is it El Chapo? Was it the North Koreans? I mean, who the hell was it? Somebody please prove me wrong. Provide the evidence it was the North Koreans. Provide the evidence it was the Venezuelans. Or El Chapo's wife was sleeping with Marin, and this was a revenge attack on Marin. I mean, somebody provide some evidence of an alternate story here.
If people come up with this, speaking of Marin and the MGM shorting the stock, MGM had like $16 billion in debt at that time. It was, and it's the whole property, has been pieced off to this company called Vici. What's Vici's Latin for I conquered, right? And So that whole thing, like Marin selling stock or people shorting it, George Soros, he's a shadowy character, up to all kinds of no good. But I don't think he played a role in this. I don't think. Well,
let's separate the two because they're two different people, and they've got different friends. I think George Soros knew.
How would he know?
Because
Why would he know?
Because Walid bin Talal and George Soros they travel in the same circles.
Oh, if you want to go that far with it, then Bill Gates certainly knew because they probably said, "Hey, Bill, we're going to be keeping, are you going to be using the place October 1st?"
Did Bill Gates short the stock though?
No, he didn't short the stock, but it's kind of like they're sharing a beach house together at the Four Seasons.
It's not kind of like they do. They're equal partners in the Four Seasons, Bill Gates and Walid. And Soros, so you mentioned Soros. Soros is short on MGM. Is the largest position he's ever taken at the time in any Las Vegas property, in any gambling. It's short on
$16
MGM.
billion in debt. It was garbage.
And he shorts the stock. Now, there's a difference between Soros shorting it and Jim Marin selling shares, because Jim Marin, in order to sell shares as CEO, he has to file with the SEC something like 6 months in advance of selling. So he doesn't even get.
They do that every quarter. They sell.
That's right. That's exactly right. No, you're right. So he has. But the point is, he'll file to sell 6 months from now. And then 3 months from now, he'll make another filing to sell in 6 months.
Right.
So you're exactly right. They schedule this stuff. It's scheduled in advance. So I'm trying to separate Jim Marin selling stock and Soros shorting stock. That's different. I think Soros was tipped by Walid. Your question about why didn't Walid tip Bill Gates? Fair question. They may not get along. He may not like his Four Seasons partner. He may think he's a dick. We don't know.
Still, but they might, but they're still birds of a feather.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. You mentioned earlier, what is justice? That's an important question. I think the Night of the Long Sword was the beginning of MBS carrying out his end of the justice at his end. In other words,
we are not avenged.
Well, that's the thing, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about. So, if he went after Mansour bin Mukran, it might have been Abdullah.
I want to talk about Mansour bin Mukran too, because I wonder what role he played. We want to go.
Yeah.
Before we get into that.
Yeah.
We can talk about that big plane that made that turn.
Yeah.
I saw a couple of lights.
Yeah.
Okay. Because at the time of the interview, I didn't know. I saw those lights and I didn't mention it in the interview because I didn't know what to make of them.
Okay.
And the other 3 helicopters were just so clear. And that was plenty of freaking information,
Okay.
to tell that nobody ever told before. Anyway.
All right. So roll back. Take us back. Go ahead.
Okay. So right when I got out of the car, I saw the plane make a turn and I saw those 2 helicopter lights. And I sometimes you need to hear somebody else say something to you before before I for like a couple of years I just carried this around. They didn't really tell anybody because nobody's going to believe it anyway. And they just come up, they get scared of it. They get all kinds of stuff. Nobody wants to hear it about what really happened. And then I saw your video. I saw one of your videos, and I wrote a comment and they're like, and then when that happened, I was like, geez, it's kind of like, now and I felt a sense of responsibility. Like, okay, I'm not the only one out there. And it's like, it's kind of like, I got it. It's my neighborhood. It's my community. I got to say, hey, no, what you think is true isn't true. So, but anyway, so that inspired me to come forward here. And then I saw there was a comment in the, about what somebody wrote on the video about maybe that plane was dodging a helicopter. And I'm like, yeah, they sure were. That's what happened. So they were that plane was dodging the, those two little lights I saw. And there was fire around Signature, their gunfire at
right
at that time. So they were shooting at whoever they were shooting at. We don't know because there's also gunfire over around like Atlantic too, wasn't there?
Tell me what
private terminal.
The Atlantic terminal is where on the 19R runway, up towards the north end or down towards Maverick?
Did you say there's gunfire up there too in that area?
I don't know for certain.
Like a Papillon or something.
I don't know for certain. You may have seen that from somebody else's video.
Okay, but anyway, these two, because maybe they. Yeah, who owns God, I don't want to I could get on so many different tangents on this, just like who owns Signature, does this? And
we know that. Anyway, we can talk about that. Bill Gates owns Signature.
I know, but I want to keep my thought clear on this. So anyway, so they were firing at them. So Mansour bin Mukran, like you said in the interview, was killed in a helicopter crash shortly after this in Saudi Arabia.
Yes. So
I've always wondered, and this is just pure speculation, Saudi Arabia is not going to be, it's not a meritocracy. They have, so much of this mission was, like I said in the interview, was well executed. But then they missed their ultimate objective if the hypothesis is correct. So they missed their ultimate objective of killing MBS.
Yes.
And I wonder if those helicopters that I saw were firing on him. Could have been him there. I don't know. He's either coming or going from a plane, leaving the Signature terminal. Who knows? But was that Mansour bin Mukran that fired on him?
No. So the big name guys, none of them actually make the trip to the States.
Because I wonder who actually was tasked with that shot.
No, but I'll tell you why I think Mansour bin Mukran got the special treatment. Right, so let's share with the audience, who this guy is. Why was he treated differently than everybody else? So, 200 or so Saudis are invited to a party at the Ritz-Carlton on November the 4th or 5th, based on where you are in the world on the international dateline. And I think it's Shakira or Ciara supposed to be performing at the party. And it's King Salman who's inviting you to the party.
So you got to go.
You got to go, right? Everybody goes, they lock the door. But one of the members of the family never makes it to the Ritz-Carlton. And that's Mansour bin Mukran. Mansour bin Mukran is the son of Mukran bin Abdulaziz. Mukran bin Abdulaziz not only was crown prince at one time before MBS and was pushed aside, but he was also the head of the Saudi intelligence agency. So when you have the guy who's the head of the Saudi intelligence agency, who's also in line to be the next king, his son has a certain sense of entitlement, thinking,
certainly,
Dad's going to be king.
Disappointment and entitlement, yeah.
And as soon as Dad gets pushed aside, the man who pushed his dad aside is now his enemy. In other words, MBS is the reason Mansour bin Mukran is not going to be the next king of Saudi Arabia. And in Mansour's mind, So there's an article in The Guardian that's published in 2015 that talks about regime change in Saudi Arabia. Now that's a nice way to put Arab Spring, right? You remember how Arab Spring worked out in Libya and Egypt and didn't work out so well. Meaning Arab Spring is the introduction of a democracy, a dominion voting system like democracy into these places. And when you're the royals, that's something you're not that interested in, right? So it would be like replacing the royals in the UK, right? They're not interested in that type of agenda. So when people like Jamal Khashoggi starts advocating for an Arab Spring in Saudi Arabia, to MBS, that's like, oh, so I end up like Gaddafi? Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, you kind of sign your death warrant there, don't you?
Yeah, that's not like a successful political platform. Certainly not in Saudi Arabia.
No.
So Mansour bin Mukran is shot down in his helicopter with his entire entourage. They don't, I think there were 7 people with him, 11 people. I mean, there was like a significant number of people with him in the helicopter. They don't care. He's dead. So that sends a message to his dad, Mukran bin Abdulaziz. Your son is dead. You want to keep playing games? Got any more good ideas? These guys are ruthless, man.
They are.
Ruthless.
There's so much on the line. It's incomprehensible. I mean, you can look at them and all that wealth and maybe look at it with a little envy, but it does not come without its problems.
All right. So if MBS took care of Mansour bin Mukran, we know Maiteb bin Abdullah is in prison right now. So is Mohammed bin Nayef, by the way. And he imprisoned his brother. MBS put his older brother, the astronaut, the only Saudi Arabian to go to space, sent him to jail. I mean, so he is not playing around. He is not.
Do you know why the king chose MBS over his older kids? Because, I mean, he's got a bunch of them. Why did he choose a second team?
I think the older one, who's the astronaut, also may have been in the 28 pages. I think he may have had some sort of involvement in September 11th as a sponsor, as a plan, or something like that. And if bin Salman was confronted on it, he says, MBS is the future of Saudi Arabia. My other sons, I got 26, whatever the number is. He's got a bazillion sons, right? He's got n number of wives and n times 2 or 3 number of children. So
one thing people don't really know, I mean, they always say it's about money. This is all about money, but the reason Saudi Arabia is so wealthy is because Nixon took off the gold standard in 1971, 72 or something, and then made a deal with the Saudi that they would buy our bonds. The U.S. dollar became a debt-denominated instrument, and Saudi Arabia agreed to buy all our bonds. They got fabulously wealthy. We bought all our oil from them and guaranteed their defense. So, we went from Vietnam to all our wars being in the Middle East after that. And so whoever's going to be the Saudi royal has to have a good relationship with the United States. You can't be, to keep this going.
No doubt.
To keep it all going.
No
you
doubt.
have to have, do you agree with me on that?
Oh, and absolutely. And I think we were on that path. I think the relationship between Jared Kushner and MBS was as good as any relationship that we've seen between the United States and Saudi Arabia since the Bush family. And
that's another thing. Okay, Jared Kushner was meeting with MBS. If this is what happened, he's meeting with a Jew on a shura. Over here we can't say, oh no, everybody's the same, nobody's different. We're all friends. Let's hold hands and wave our rainbow flags and be all this stuff. But for them, he's with and not just any Jew, but a friend with Bibi Netanyahu, and just
they became buddies. No. So Jared Kushner, Ivanka, and MBS became pretty close in 2017, and they made the trip with Trump over there. They got close. Now, what's interesting is I don't know if Jared Kushner was a guest for Ashura. What I know is the story of Ashura is the same story as Passover.
A greater Egypt than that of my father.
That is not what I see.
Moses, I cannot change what you see. I have to maintain the ancient traditions. I bear the weight of my father's crown.
Do you still not understand what said he was?
He was a great leader.
His hands bore the blood of thousands of children.
Slaves.
My people. And I can no longer hide in the desert while they suffer. At your hands.
So, you have returned, only to free them.
I'm sorry.
They just have a
But they were
different...
still friendly, no matter what. Even if they had dinner with each other or not,
Right.
they were still friendly with one another.
All right, but here's the key piece, though. Here's the key piece. 2 weeks after the Vegas shooting, Jared Kushner flew to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
2.5 weeks after that is the night of the long sword.
And another thing that I don't like in October, another thing that happened, I've sent you emails about this, is, Trump was busy with this. People don't really understand. And I felt very alone in like my personal speculation when I was watching this, but Trump made an amendment to the executive order that Bush issued after 9/11 that allowed something about like ability to call up the ready reserve.
Okay.
And it looked like on the surface, it looks pretty innocuous and it doesn't really, you look at it like, what's this all about? It doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
And I was, to me, I thought, oh, he's setting up for something big. So he's letting them know. He's letting the Saudis on their end knowing, hey, you better take care of this or there's going to be trouble.
Resend that to me. I want that to pop up in the top of I want to take a second look at that. So,
okay.
All right. So send that to me.
There's another thing that he did too.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the exact date of it, but I think it was shortly after that. But I remember like just flipping through and watching MSNBC, and I saw this thing that Trump was expanding the use of drones beyond just out of hostile areas. And MSNBC people were like, oh yeah, Trump's unhinged. He's now he can attack his political rivals within the United States. And I was watching this and I thought, God, I'm probably the only one in the freaking country that thinks this is like, I was like, hell yeah, good job. Because that meant that they could send drones to knock out those 3 that I saw.
Yes.
Well,
Well,
the mountains, because how long does it take to dispatch fighter jets or something? Boom, get the drones, and they could already be up in the air right now. They could have knocked them out just over the bow. They could have knocked them,
well, I may have.
The base commander. I'm sorry, I got to.
Yeah, base commander.
I get fired up when I talk about.
Yeah,
this.
talk about the base commander.
Well, the base commander was fired 2 weeks later. I don't know if there's a big, the chief guy, or he's a guy on duty at the time, but he was fired. And I remember all the local media was like, "This doesn't make any sense. Why is he fired? He hasn't done anything." Well, and I was watching this, going, "Oh, good, thank you, Mr. President."
Right. So you connected it.
What you're doing,
right? So let's share this with the audience. So the base commander at Nellis, responsible for counterterrorism, is relieved of his command 2.5 weeks after the shooting.
Yeah.
And Jared,
Poor guy, I felt bad for him because he's like, what a cushy job he probably has, you know, in Vegas, it's sunny every day.
Nellis,
and
living up in
Nellis,
Summerlin, right?
yeah,
Got a
he's
house in
probably a dream
Summerlin.
job.
Oh yeah, he was living the dream.
Right.
And flying F-18s, and it doesn't get any better than that. So he's relieved of his command. This is the head of counterterrorism at Nellis.
Loss of confidence, they called it.
October, what was it, the 15th, 16th, 17th?
Yeah, 16th, right in the middle of October, yeah.
Yep. And then Jared gets on a plane and flies to Saudi Arabia. And 2 weeks later, the night of the long sword. And Mansour doesn't make it to the party. Mansour's blown to bits out of the sky. Interesting, huh?
Very interesting.
And then you look at places like Brookings Institute and Bruce Rydell, and they tell you that MBS is just unhinged, and Night of the Long Sword was just ridiculous.
He was completely. I understood what he was doing.
Well,
and
yeah. So what's interesting is that corporations pay Brookings millions of dollars to get these briefings.
Millions.
Right. So that's why this narrative is so dangerous, because there are corporations that rely on a certain stability in the region. I think that's the term they like. Stability in the region. Right?
Right. And as long as you keep the money flowing, you'll have the stability in the region.
Yeah. And again, I don't know if you've seen the movie Syriana.
Somewhat.
But
What's
in
that?
the film, there's a film called Syriana with George Clooney.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah.
And it's about two brothers who are fighting over a kingdom. This is about cousins. But other than that aspect of it, boy, it feels very similar. So the film Syriana is about two brothers. This is more about cousins. And it's almost like the cousins don't really care which one of them is going to be the next crown prince, as long as we get the 30-something-year-old out of there. Then we'll figure it out, right? If it's going to be Awaleed bin Talal.
Oh, really? That was the theme of the movie? I remember the movie. I didn't see it.
It was between two brothers and who's going to be the next head of a kingdom. George Clooney's in it. Matthew Damon's in it.
Imitating Life, huh?
Matt Damon's in the film. And I'll tell you, the storyline is so close to what appears to have happened here. It's not brothers. So Khalid and MBS are as close as can be.
Yeah.
They're as close as can be. So it's wild. So I think what you and I really want to focus on, though, moving forward, is what can we do about the cover-up that took place in Las Vegas? Because the thing for me that just feels wrong is that the LVMPD doesn't come forward and tell people, here's what happened. Now, maybe
you have a different view on that than I do, because I witnessed it, and I've gone through all the emotion of like witnessing it and understanding, even different than the people that were being shot at. They have their trauma, but I'm back watching it. It's like I'm backstage at a magic show. I remember I saw a magic show at the Venetian one time, and I just had comp tickets, and they were like upper balcony, far right side, just crappiest seats you can get. Yeah. But I could see backstage. Ooh. So everybody out in front of the stage was like, ooh, and on. I could see the guys pulling the ropes in the back, and that's kind of what this was like.
Yeah. And when and nobody wants to hear it, it's very frustrating. Right. It's like World War Z. In World War Z, Brad Pitt has got something, and they don't want to let him into the, on the other side of the glass wall. And the glass wall, is obviously a metaphor. And that's very much what this, what you and I have been up against for the last couple of years, is people.
But I don't hold the enmity towards Lombardo that other people do.
All right, so let's talk about that. So tell people why you don't feel that way, because I want to see justice regarding the cover-up locally. I like what they did with this Idaho thing. They solved the Idaho murder, and then they came clean. Well, they said that they got the guy, and they think they got the guy, and here's how we got the guy, right, with the Idaho thing, and he's now going to trial. But for the first 30 days, they pretended they didn't know what the hell was going on. They said, well, we're going to need some help. We need leads. We got nothing. And next thing you know, they tell them, no, actually, we followed them across the country and all that. And they told you a little bit about how they went about it and what they did. If the LVMPD did that, I'd feel differently. I'm sure.
They can't.
Right, because the FBI is telling them they can't.
Not just the FBI. What if if Metro came out and said, yeah, okay, we lied. Yeah, we lied, but,
Wasn't Paddock, right? It wasn't Paddock.
It wasn't Paddock. Yeah, but how many people sitting in prison right now are going to say, oh, look at, they're admitted liars. They're known liars, and they're going to try to pull and try and get themselves out of prison. I mean, it's not just telling the public, yeah, golly gee, we're, clean and squeaky clean and honest, and here's what happened. I mean, it goes deep. It goes deep. And if everybody saw what I saw and understood it, it would have been on, man. It would have been like the Archduke Ferdinand in World War I. He was a crown prince. He was killed, and that sparked World War I, the great, greatest war to end all wars. And we knocked out. We're still living from, the effects of that. And it would have been really bad. So I mean, it's just I struggle with this all the time, and I'm thinking, okay, it's better that I just freaking stir about this than other people did, and Trump called up the Ready Reserve and all this stuff, So it would have been bad. So,
I want the people of Las Vegas. I want the people of Las Vegas. I want the victims to know who really shot at them.
Yeah, I do too. But I don't want people thinking, because you just say like, oh, put the Saudi flag up there. It's the Saudis. It's the Saudis.
No,
it's
right.
not the Saudis.
Right, correct. It's a very important distinction. People need to understand this.
It's a very important distinction.
So let's talk about that, because a lot of people are like, well, then let's go kick their ass, and it's not so cut and dry.
No, there goes your retirement.
Right. Well, the other thing is, this is a coup d'état attempt, meaning it's an internal power struggle within Saudi Arabia. It's not. It happened to take place on our soil, but it's not something that we get to go to war with Saudi Arabia. We need to round up the people who did this. And again, like I've said, it appears that MBS did that in Saudi Arabia, but the people who covered it up here, the FBI, Aaron Rouse, Christopher Wray.
A lot of people didn't even know what they were doing.
No, I agree. So I think the LVMPD guys, I don't think they had any idea it was an aerial attack. I really don't.
Some of them do, but I'm sure they struggle with it too.
Now they do, yes. But I think the night of, as it was happening, like Bitsko and Newton in the suite, I don't think they had a clue.
They might not. I don't know.
I don't think they did. I really don't. I really don't think any of the cops that night really had a clue. Maybe some of the cops that were outside that were finding the shell casings, like out on the sidewalk and stuff.
There's a lot more. We're not, I don't want to because you can go off on there was so much that happened, and I don't want to but there are reasons why I suspect that more knew something was up, and knew the actual perpetrators at the time. That than we may believe. But what can they do? They can't do anything.
Well. Can we? I mean, can we go after Lombardo? Can we? Again, if it was my family,
Lombardo's victim.
I to a degree he is, but he kind of I think he got into this mess himself. I think he lied to the FBI. I think when the FBI showed up on the crime scene,
I'm sure they knew what was going on. They knew what was going on about as quick as I knew what was going
on. Possibly. Yeah, I think you're right. Because somebody's with MBS. In other words, State Department people are with MBS.
Yeah, here's another thing to consider too, because MBS was he was a newly minted Crown Prince, right?
Correct.
In July.
Correct.
So this was his first visit to Las Vegas as Crown Prince. Before, like in the interview, I said, yeah, he comes out a couple times a year. He's the Saudi defense minister.
That's right.
He's not only the Crown Prince, he's the Saudi defense minister.
That's right.
So he's very familiar with the United States military bases.
And Nellis, because we do the red flag thing every year.
Nellis and other things, yeah.
He's been coming to Nellis since he's 25 years old. And Khalid's a pilot.
Khalid's to Disneyland and stuff before that,
Yeah, and Khalid is a pilot. Khalid bin Salman flies F-16s.
Flies a red flag.
Yep, exactly. So this is their home away from home. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if Khalid's got a house out there.
What I was getting to is security was a lot tighter at this time.
Mm-hmm.
So as the crown prince, he's going to have extra security. So that people said that there were more. They saw all these Saudis milling around the area than a normal day, and they it was busy that day.
Big entourage.
So he had extra security, and the Secret Service would have been aware of this. Everybody,
State Department
with protecting State Department. Everybody probably would have been aware of this.
You're right.
And they so security that made it more difficult to get him.
No doubt. And this is why the commander at Nellis getting fired 2.5 weeks later. Again, it's not.
He was probably briefed of it. You think he would have been, right?
You know that I don't like to use the term proof. I never use the term proof. I use the term evidence. So when we stack up all the evidence, it just gets more and more and more compelling. Because everything that you and I have talked about adds up. And when we look at research from other people, you look at people talking about gunshots up at the Bellagio and gunshots up here. Well, yeah, if they're hanging off the side of a helicopter, flying up and down, if there's 3 helicopters, 4 helicopters, and they're making a circle, where at any given point in time, you were able to see the helicopters by Delano and Mandalay Bay, but there could have been a little bird up by Hooters at the same time shooting. Yeah,
okay. I don't think there was, because I saw those. They were around there, like I said, till 10:10, and people wonder, like, how did you know the times? Because I'm walking around with my phone in my hand,
right,
just like people do. But I can see the time. Oh, 10:10. Look at this. This is different. Boom. So they went around to They went to the north, and I saw 2 lights at that time when they went to the north. A third must have like blazed the trail for the other 2 to follow. Because you have a comment of somebody that was a Bally's that said they saw a pave hawk at 10:10.
Yeah,
which is consistent with everything that I saw.
Yep.
And so those 2 milled around for a little bit. I saw 2 for a few minutes, and by that time I was watching. I was like, show's over. I don't know what's going on, because I could just see like a dim little white light in the distance. And then one went away, and then there's another, and so 2 were there, 2 for a few minutes, and then there was just 1, and then it was gone. They're all gone by 10, 15, whatever.
Yep.
And so I don't think they brought in any extra for that, but those 2 around the airport, that that were shooting a signature, and they may have also shot around Atlantic or Papillon or whatever.
Yep.
You have video where, you sent me this. I asked you, like, why do you keep saying there's 5? I saw 3, and I didn't,
they're on the other side. Yeah, they're on the other side.
They're on the other side. When you showed video of them, what you showed me, it looked like they're right above like AMPM or the post office, between like Paradise and Swenson on right out, just south of Tropicana. And that would have been a great vantage point to view, for them to view everything that was going on. That's why I said, no, those guys that looks like whoever's in charge.
And if they're tiny, those little birds are tiny.
They're tiny. Well, these weren't the little birds. I'm sure these were not the little birds.
No. The ones you saw. No. What I'm saying is the ones you saw were most likely the Apaches. And the Apaches,
I don't know what they were.
That's the most sophisticated one.
The size of the Mavericks.
Well,
they would have fit in 53-foot trailers, I'm sure.
That's an Apache. The ones that the guy from the Sharks,
which is another thing to consider. They would have fit in 53-foot trailers.
And the guy from the Hawks, from the Sharks game, he said he sees a Blackhawk, right, which is consistent with the pop.
How does he know Blackhawk?
Because he's
I'm an eyewitness, but I don't want to say I'm an expert witness. I can't say what's what.
Because the Blackhawk is the only one that has that Lexan panel under the feet, so that you can see up through the bottom.
I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
So they could have all been Blackhawks.
The one you're describing is most likely the Apache, and the Apache is sick.
I don't know. I mean, I can't say what it was.
Yeah. Now, the little birds are tiny. It's like an MD-500. It's a tiny little helicopter.
They didn't have that. The little birds are more built like Bell helicopters.
Right.
These were all angular.
That you saw over by the Mandalay. What I'm suggesting is there may have been a little bird over by Hooters that's so damn tiny you'd never see it from your perspective, because Mandalay's blocking
because
Hooters.
They had the lights on. I would have.
No.
And that's what
what I'm trying to say is, from your vantage point, Mandalay's blocking Hooters. I think. Mandalay blocks Hooters from your perspective.
No, it doesn't. No, the stadium wasn't there at that time. I could see right through it. I could see right through, the Luxor, Mandalay wouldn't block it. The Luxor kind of impedes it, but you can see
Hooters? You can see Hooters from where you were?
Because I could see the airspace over Hooters.
Yeah, okay. I think the Little Bird is so tiny that from your vantage point, I don't think you would
couldn't see it anyway because it was dark and they were black.
Well,
but they had the nose light on and the tail light on, so that's how I could see them when they're in the distance.
Again, I think you saw the most sophisticated ones they have. I think you saw.
I think I did too. Yeah. That's why they don't look like anything I've really ever seen.
It may have been. Again, you and I have talked about this privately. These may have been stealth Apaches, like the ones that we used. When we went to go get Bin Laden. So if these are stealth Apaches. Yeah, my God, I don't even know if we admit that we make them yet.
Spared no expense.
Yeah, exactly. And again, MBS gets to buy the best stuff. He buys whatever he wants. During the Trump administration, he was spending a fortune. I can't thank you enough for doing this. I'm really grateful that you took the time.
Yeah, I got to cut it off, but maybe in a couple of years we'll do it again. Then I don't know.
Couple years, get the hell out.
There's plenty to talk about. It's been 2 years, but
I want to talk about.
I'll just say there's a local celebrity that dodged a mention here.
Well, there's a couple of them. I mean, there's the big guy with all the guns. We know him. There's the pretty girl that used to be with the dancing routine, the song and dance routine. So, there's a bunch of celebrities that were there that kind of...
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about anybody that was at the event.
Oh, well...
I'll just tell you, I'll tell you, there's 2 helicopters. Like, I saw 3 go away.
Yeah.
Okay, I saw 3 head to the southwest. Where did those other 2 go? That's what gets me.
I don't know.
Where did they go? They would want to get down and out as quick as they could. So, I probably shouldn't say this, but on Sunset and Pecos, there's on the southwest corner, there sits a property that has a helipad, and it's over 30 acres, and it was available to rent at the time.
Interesting.
It has big high walls, big 10-foot walls, so you can't see from the street, and it's only seconds from the airport. So these guys didn't know if they're trying to get somebody coming in or out, they have seconds to make this call. So they don't want to waste around and hover around and do all this kind of
in and
they
out.
want to be there as quick in and out as quick as they can. So that property is, if I was an investigator, if I was investigating this, that would be a very curious property to me.
All right, maybe next time I come out to Vegas, we'll have to go visit the site, and we'll bring a drone with us.
And I'm sure people listening to this know what I'm talking about.
That's awesome. I can't thank you enough, my friend, for doing this once again. I'm sure the audience appreciated it, and again, let's keep our chins up and do what we can, but again, I think we're all in debt to you for sharing your story. Thank you.
All right, man. Well, have a good night.
All right, take care, my friend. Bye-bye.
Thanks.